Welcome, Ultimate fans, to a Premier Ultimate League Friday night special. Coming to you live from New York. Always wanted to say that. We have the New York Gridlock taking on DC Shadow, the undefeated Shadow, who are at the top of the standings. Gridlock chasing after them. I'm Keith Rayner, joined in the booth by Judy Jarvis. And Judy, I mean, this is a critical game for the Gridlock season. This DC team has been so dominant here in this Premier Ultimate League season, but this New York team knows that there's still a chance, but it starts here.
Absolutely. Gridlock needs to be on their game right now. They are fighting to survive and stay in and have a chance at championship weekend. So they have a lot to play for, and they're playing on their home field. So I think those ingredients are really going to pump up this Gridlock team tonight.
Yeah, you can see each of the divisions, the division leaders will each advance to the playoffs, and then one wildcard team, which is selected by a Power Rankings Committee, will get the last spot. You see Gridlock, Surge, and Nightshade, who are the three most likely teams to take those positions. Gridlock head-to-head loss to the Surge, so they're going to need some things to break their way or to upset this DC team, or both. Now, New York Gridlock, however, a star-packed team, and of course, one of the biggest names on this team is going to be Yina Cartagena. But they have a deep roster that hasn't always gotten to play together, but a number of really experienced, strong players.
Absolutely, and it's exciting to see them now united. They have a couple games under their belt of Cartagena and Mosquera playing together. Here's a rip from Cartagena to the end zone to Havlati. Excellent, excellent, and we're looking to see a lot of that tonight. Then we have Cartagena going deep herself. She is everywhere. She is so hard to guard, and this is going to be a great matchup with DC.
Cartagena, the Colombian import, who's already won 2 Premier Ultimate League titles with Medellin Revo Pro, who's no longer in the league, but has stacked up 17 assists and 3 goals despite missing a game, well ahead of the rest of her teammates. That's just how much they rely on her skill, and what a giant influence she has on the game just every time she steps on the field.
Absolutely, and she has experience beating DC Shadow. So in the last PUL championship weekend, it was Medellin Revolution, which Cartagena used to play on, versus DC Shadow. So she's matched up against a lot of these players, and she's poised to come in confident as a handler, as really a pilot on the field. And now we're shifting over to DC Shadow to see some of their incredible play this year. Keith, what are you especially impressed about with the DC Shadows squad?
Well, I know we're going to talk a lot about some of the big names on this team, but there have been a number of contributors that have gotten it done for them, especially on defense. The list of names is very long of players who make big plays, like Amanda Murphy, like Ashley Buke, Jess Sourbeer. This team has a deep roster, and it's what's making them the favorites here in the Premier Ultimate League in 2023.
And we also have Trope joining the roster today. Of course, she's been on the team all season, but wasn't at the last game where DC Shadow decisively beat Philadelphia Surge 15-10. So Trope there, we see 3 people in on the screen, and Trope is already, only in 3 games with her team, is the tied for lead in goals, tied for lead in blocks, and tied for second in assists. Trope is a relentless player. She is such a threat because she's an excellent deep cutter, but she's also such a precise thrower. And then the mental game. She's so collected. She's so good under pressure. So she is a huge weapon for DC Shadow tonight.
I mean, only 24 and arguably maybe the best player in the world. I mean, that is the caliber of player that we're talking about on both of these teams. With Cartagena on the other side, laying claim to potentially that same crown, as we are underway. Gridlock pulling in black. DC fields the pull in white. Annalise Peters takes a centering pass and blown coverage. No mark on Peters. So that is a layup as she sends it to Trope for the score. And not how Gridlock wanted to get their first point in front of the home crowd started.
Oh, no. That is a Trope saying, hello, I'll be here tonight. I'll be doing this all evening. And just bolting to the end zone for a beautiful, clean 2-pass possession. Gridlock has got to get on their horse for this one. Next one.
Yeah, Claire Trope's pretty good, and you're not going to want to let her get behind you, but you can't give a thrower of Annalise Peters' caliber an unmarked throw at dead center field and expect something good to happen for your defense.
All right, so Gridlock is going to try to get their own smooth O possession right now. as they'll receive the disc shortly.
It can be really deflating, I think, as a defense to come out. You know, you're on the line, you're making your game plan, you're thinking about the matchups that you've been talking about all week, how you're going to strategically implement the tactics you have lined up for this offense that you have to shut down, and you go out and lay an egg on the first point. So now the offense for this Gridlock team has to kind of steady the ship a little bit.
Yes, and we saw when Gridlock played Minnesota Strike early in May, they also had an uneven start. They were able to claw back and make it a universe point game, but they really learned their lesson there that they need to start out strong to have a chance against this really talented DC team.
So we get our first look at New York's offense. Tulsa Douglas picking up and going around to Amy Zhou. Turnover for New York. On that wide pass to De Jesus. Quick initiating offense for DC. Trope crossing over. But a low throw from Trope. There is a bit of a breeze going from the right side of your screen towards the left. So DC trying to work upwind. Cartagena picks it up and has such a wide range on her pivots. She just really makes a mark work to cover a lot of ground. Barrett gets it up to Douglas. Deep throw going up for New York. De Jesus tracking it down. Well read by Jenny De Jesus. Fast break opportunity now for New York.
All right, De Jesus finds Joe in the end zone, patiently waiting for somebody to come down and take that goal with her. So Gridlock is happy to at least get one on the board here. They moved it all the way the full length of the field there, so I think they can feel good about their cutting. They can feel good about their flow. So hopefully this is just what they need to kind of get their engines back up. A great read by De Jesus in the air and a calm score to Joe.
Yeah, love to see that sort of presence in the deep space. De Jesus able to make the highlight play, but doesn't keep the adrenaline going and overshoot or anything in the red zone, takes her time, lets the look open up, and finds something really easy thanks to the hustle of Amy Zhou.
And we're going to be saying De Jesus a lot tonight. She has been just an incredible receiver, cutting hard again and again and again, so motivated to get those scores. So excited to see her play tonight.
Yeah, 9 goals for De Jesus coming into this game, leading the team. So adding assist to that total. It's her 6th assist of the season. See the Wind playing with that PUL, keeping these offensive possessions at midfield. Pat Ritzman with the disc, looking to reset. See making some tough catches, but able to generate enough separation that they have the space to make those plays. Ritzman looking to the end zone, but miscommunication with the downfield cutter. And New York will get their first break chance of the game.
What I love is both of these teams are ready to huck at all moments. They have many players who can rip it, so it's exciting for the fans, for the people in the booth to see a lot of those hucks go up tonight for both teams.
Tangalini starts it off, but Malinowski going wide, hand blocked. Great job on the mark. And a near bookends is denied. So blocks going both ways. Defense showing some fight after the offenses have controlled the first couple points.
And this is what Gridlock wants. They do not want quick and easy points for DC Shadow. They don't want to let them feel confident coming in here. And so this kind of point showing that their defense can really come to play is what they need.
Mickey here poached on the far side of the field. That gets the possession for New York, but Malinowski's throw pops over the head of the intended target. Intercepted by Ritzman. Peters gets it back, and now disc moving up ahead. And that throw a little too casual in these conditions. catches some air and ends up on the ground. Great pressure defense for the interception just outside the end zone. And the little flip, unsuccessful. Not for lack of effort, though.
That's a timeout for the New York Gridlock.
Looks like we have a timeout on the field right now, so the teams are going to regroup after a relatively long point.
The
timeout after a number of changes of possession here. The defense is both firing and then a couple of miscues as well. You can see the block by Lizzie Laurie. Nearly saved by Sam Harris, who also got a block of their own, and then there's Blaise Sevier with the interception. So strong work by both of these defenses. This broadcast is presented by Discraft. The Discraft Ultrastar is the official disc of the Premier Ultimate League. Discraft, the world leader in disc sports, as well as Spin Ultimate. This broadcast is brought to you by Spin Ultimate, the official live stream sponsor of the Premier Ultimate League. Out of the timeout, substitutions during that timeout. Going to get Gina Cartagena and the Gridlock offense back on the field. You can already see the level of activity that Cartagena has around the disc. Gets a ton of touches, leads the team in that category. Again, despite missing a game, as there's a stoppage.
It's exciting to see both teams coming out swinging on defense. So really, you know, the turnovers were not unforced errors. There may be a little bit of a loose disc, but the defense on both sides was playing tight enough that they're able to get those hard grabs. So that's the kind of matchup we're excited for tonight.
Another pick will stop play, but you can see the handlers for New York starting to get maybe a little disconnected from the cutters. They try and work the give-go game, but this DC defense is applying a ton of pressure around the disc. That's something they did to great effect in their big win over Philadelphia. That's put them at the top of the standings in the East. But New York finds some room. The throw trails out of bounds. Looking for Cartagena, but not able to keep that one on the field. Quick look to the end zone again from DC, but the help defense peels off Emily Barrett in the space to deny Allison Maddox a chance at a score. So at this point, grinding on. So we crossed into 5 minutes into this game. We're able to work these short throws to get across the width of the field. DC keeping them from getting any long gainers. Jesus fights for the around, but catches the wind a little bit, and Amanda Murphy able to knock it down.
This third point is a battle.
Yeah, both teams really being tested at their level of fitness and ability to execute when the defense is all over you.
I think both teams know the stakes.
Douglas able to find Cartagena in the middle. Big wide mark on Cartagena, trying to make sure she can't get off a deep throw. High put, and the wind just keeps catching. I think the more tired the players get, the less they're able to deliver those crisp, low throws that you need to in the wind.
And the defense on each team is giving such small windows to their opponents, so any little error as people get more tired is going to be a turnover.
Maddox looking to end this one in one throw with a deep throw to Murphy, and it is on point. Allison Maddox with a beautiful assist. Murphy gets the goal. That's a hard-fought hold for Shadow.
What a rip from Maddox. That is the kind of defensive handler skill you love to see. Looks for her receiver, huge backhand, almost the whole field length with enough touch. No layout needed, just a little stumble afterwards to make sure. But a great grab for Murphy, and Shadow had to work hard for that hold.
And a bit of a gamble by Gridlock going with their O-line coming out on that point, and you have to take the loss when you give up the goal there, because now that same O-line, mostly comprised of the same players, is going to walk back out there and have to keep grinding after fighting through a hard point and they only played half the point.
That's a great point, Keith, and they need those folks. So this is a really, the O-line on Gridlock has a lot of great chemistry, and so the coaches want them back out there. They don't want to sacrifice, even though they know they're tired from just playing a long point. So I'd expect them to be doing a pull play here, try to cleanly score with a few passes to try to preserve those legs. We've only just begun.
And conversely, if I'm DC, my goal here is to make this win as long as possible. We don't even have to score it. I just want to keep that O-line out there for as long as I need to. Rolling pull. It's going to be our best pull of the day. Perhaps to slow down play, we do see a bit of a junk set from DC, clogging up some of these lanes. Cartagena looking for options, goes over the top to Barrett. That might crack open this defense. Body unmarked. Defense transitioning. Still have not figured out who's going to match up with Eladi, but now it's Douglas. That's about as simple as you can make it.
Woo! And that's the recipe. Cartagena to Jesus in the end zone is one that we'll be seeing a lot. Gridlock was not cowed by the junk defense that DC Shadow brought out, but I certainly understand Shadow's perspective that trying to put pressure on in a different way. But it looked like DC was the more tired team in that point, just a little bit slow on the transition back to person, finding who to mark. So I think they'll need to pump up their energy a little bit more.
And nice job to respond to giving up that last goal. It wasn't a break for New York on the previous point, but having your O-line go out there and get scored on, even for a hold, can be a little bit demoralizing. But they responded beautifully. A great execution. Douglas with the break throw to set up an easy toss for Cartagena into De Jesus.
And now the DC Shadow O-line is going to show their stuff. So as we talked about at the top, this is an incredibly deep DC team. And so they have so many great throwers, so many great receivers. And so they're going to be looking to have a decisive O point right now.
No clear trope out on this DC offense, but DC legend Jenny Fay takes the centering pass. And isolation for Carolyn Normile to start. Normile's throw is well defended by Lisa Kowalski. So another great chance for New York. Just short of midfield with Renata Pepe. And Pepe tries to fight a forehand up the line, but pulled out of the air by Ritzman.
That spot on the field has been where discs go to float and be turned over.
You're totally right. I was just thinking about how trying to throw that forehand directly up this near sideline has been troublesome for both offenses. Lori gets the catch, but it looks like there may be a pick call. Lori, the player who actually caught that interception.
Gridlock had their break chance there, but Shadow did a great job of reading a disc that popped up, and they're getting pretty close to their end zone.
Lori flipping it. Across the field to Faye. Faye goes back across the field the other way. The Blady action. Incomplete, however. Looking back to Lori.
Gridlock has a chance here for a break, but they've got to work at the whole field. against a motivated DC team.
Kowalski looks to reset. Well cut off by Faye, and so Kowalski's forced to just send one. But that prayer is unanswered.
Some lockdown defense by DC. There were no options. It looked like just an incredible team defense effort from Shadow to force that throw.
And now Lori direct into the end zone, the express delivery for the score.
Lisa Laurie, that's a name we're going to be hearing a lot, has just had an incredible season on DC Shadow. Such excellent cutters, such good timing. And here is the replay of the turnover, probably a stall 9, huck from Kowalski. DC got it back into the hands. Oh, that's not Laurie.
Now Lori on the assist up to Megan Bartlett. Nice job there. And, I wish if I could just teach my players to do some of the things that Jenny Faye was doing on defense there. Obviously Faye is not the fastest player on the field. There's a lot of great athletes here, but so cerebral and recognized how the resets were setting up and was able to cut off that backfield throw, that option. So Kowalski was put in a position to make that punt and nearly completed. All credit to Abby Chang for being in the right spot, but not able to make the catch, and DC gets the goal.
We have a tie game, and we've had some real battle points. So this is anybody's game at this point, which is really what Gridlock wants. So DC has a road to the championship already paved out for them, but Gridlock has to fight for every inch here.
Jesus back to Cartagena, who's gotten it every other thus far. And you can see just how wide these marks are on Cartagena. Great look from Douglas to the break side to Joe, able to throw that OIO forehand to that opposite front cone. Joe gets the score.
And these are players, Tulsa Douglas, Amy Jo, who've played together on Gridlock since the inaugural season in 2019. They also played together on Brute Squad, so they know it's that locked in, thrower receiver. Tulsa knows, you got to get this. I'm going to slice it at this angle. Joe's ready for it, for an important score there.
Joe, who has a number of former teammates on the Shadow side, of which there are many between these two teams. I mean, obviously, these two cities and communities not located far away from one another, so there's a lot of cross-pollination as far as who's played with whom. But certainly has built up chemistry with Douglas, and you see it to great effect there for the score.
And it also just means that the amount that all of these players know about each other is so deep. So they know each other as opponents, as teammates. Some of them have played on, Team USA together. So when these matchups are happening, the calculations that the defenders are making, that the offenders are making, they're pulling in a lot of data.
Now jump set from New York. Perhaps try to slow down DC's deep attack. Transition. As Faye works it directly up the sideline. Here's Normile just outside the end zone. And just great technical footwork on the part of Shadow. Able to get right into that open side space for an easy score. And well traversed by DC. Different look from New York, but not able to unsteady this DC's team.
Yeah, Gridlock just got shredded down the sideline. So DC essentially said, we see your junk, and we're just going to do what you want us to do. You want us to be on the sideline? All right, we'll stay on the sideline, and we'll thread the needle all the way down. They stayed in the same quarter of the field. So just showcasing the preciseness and the skill of the throwers on DC Shadow.
Shirley Vole with the goal. And a little dance move to get open.
It's just hard to hear you all.
See Trope return to the field, as well as Maddox and the rest of this DC defense.
We're still breakless in this game, so we have seen offensive teams holding despite a lot of turnovers and various points. So who is going to be that defensive squad that's going to be able to get the turn and get the break? Is it going to be DC's folks right now? We will see.
Yeah, neither team has even really threatened a break yet. In part, I think going up wind has been such a challenge, but we haven't really seen anybody get quite to that end zone. As we get down to the last 90 seconds of the first quarter. Finley and Cartagena working it amongst one another as we get a pick that stops play. Finley checks in with Maddox on the mark. Finley played with New York Exist during the club season, and there's kind of a number of different contingents of club players on this New York roster who are coming together for this PUL season and building chemistry with one another.
You know it, and I'll have to give you full disclosure that I'm one of the coaches on Exist. So I know many of the Gridlock players well, but I also know many of the DC Shadow players well, and that's what's so exciting about this community and the Premier Ultimate League is that it's really showcasing the best of athletes who play mixed, the best of athletes who play women's, and Gridlock gets the goal.
Finley, the Seattle native, collects that one for the score and brings it back to 4-4 with 31 seconds remaining in the first. All holds still, all in this downwind end zone.
And we're seeing the miscue and the frustration of DC, but they talked and didn't find their person. So that's the tricky thing. You make an error, you want to talk about it, you want to make sure that it gets addressed in the future, but no. The priority is the dangerous people in the end zone, so Finley was able to capitalize on that.
Yeah, when I'm coaching, I like to tell players to flip the switch. You don't have time to think about what the offensive possession that was until you're off the field. You got defense to play. And certainly, DC's not going to give you any time to catch your breath in that situation.
Oh, no. And speaking of coach, we should just give a shout out to our teams because Keith and I coach against each other, but here we are in the booth working together. So I coach Princeton Ultimates Women Division Team Hemlock. Keith, who do you coach?
I coach the UConn Women's Division Team of the University of Connecticut. Rise, although this next season, unfortunately, I won't be able to join them on the sidelines. But certainly will miss the team and have had a great experience with them. These two teams having a great experience against one another, and sometimes that familiarity can breed a little extra intensity.
Oh, yeah.
They'll center to Lori, and Lori, no hesitation about taking this one, and excellently milked into the end zone as well. That's how you get a quick strike, only 10 seconds off the board and a goal to show for it. Blaise Sevier just walking that one in for a score.
Oh, and like we were saying at the first point, that burns, when you have these cutters and throwers who just seem like they can do what they want, like there's nobody on the field because there was no one guarding her. And placement that Sevier can jump into the end zone for the score.
I see the kind of attention to detail that we're seeing from DC's defense as far as how they're marking the big throwers like Cartagena, but we're not seeing that same thing quite for the Gridlock. It's the second time we've seen one of their throwers have an uncontested huck to open a possession. Not sure if it's miscommunication on the defense or just not getting down on the play with the right level of hustle, but Lori is not going to be shy about sending that. So a quick score, and now we'll come up against the possession clock.
And the way this works in the Premier Ultimate League is that when the clock stops, whichever team has the disc continues the possession until there's either a turnover or a goal. So in these 20 seconds, Gridlock really wants to hold on to the disc. They can take their time to move it down the field, but they do not want a turnover. They only have 15 seconds.
And here's what you paid the price of admission for the World Games matchup, Claire Trope versus Ina Cartagena. Although it's Allison Maddox and Emily Barrett put on a show. Foul, however. Also a great pull from DC, right at the right time, right with the clock expiring. But they can't score on this point. All they can do is deny a goal for New York. Finley under pressure, but shakes off the duress to find Halati. DC reorganizes. New York just patiently resets. De Jesus can't quite get her hands around that one, so that will end the first quarter. New York unable to get the score, so they'll go into the second trailing DC 5-4 in a must-win for the New York Gridlock.
This has been an exciting first quarter. We've had both teams coming out gritty and intense on defense and really wanting it, and a few beautiful, couple throw possessions from DC Shadow for easy scores. Let's run back some of the tape. This was the error that ended the quarter here.
So that'll wrap up the first. DC with a 5-4 lead on New York here at New York's first home game. We'll see if the crowd can get him back in.
What are they, spaceships from Mars? No, they're frisbees. Watch it soar. It flies way around like a bird. You can even run for a pass. You can play all kinds of games. Isn't it amazing? Frisbee Flying Saucer. Yours at toy, drug, and department stores.
VC Ultimate, the official uniform sponsor of the Premier Ultimate League. VC has partnered with the PUL and New York Gridlock since 2019, 4 years in running. Shop the full PUL collection at vcultimate.com/collections/premier-ultimate-league and rep your favorite PUL team. This broadcast is brought to you by Spin Ultimate, the official live stream sponsor of the Premier Ultimate League. And some stylish kits here, Judy, for both of these squads. And the Shadow kind of living up to the name, I think, with the black and white look. But I gotta say, I've always enjoyed the pink accents to this New York kit.
Keith, I am the pink accent woman. So when I was on the team in 2019 and we're working on jerseys, the options were pink, orange, or blue for the stripe. And I was team fuchsia all the way. I will say I coerced people, and I've never looked back. It's my greatest contribution to this team.
It's understated. It's classy. I like it.
Keith, what's standing out to you in the game thus far?
Well, we talked a little bit about it at the end of the first quarter, but New York's just kind of wasting some of these defensive opportunities, and I don't mean those as break chances. I mean just defensive points in general. They're giving up some easy scores to a team that's simply too good to let them have 3-1s. New York's going to have to make this DC offense work a lot harder through the rest of these 3 quarters.
That's a great point, and it seems like when Gridlock defense is on, it's really on, but then we see kind of some miscues or some things that you wouldn't expect from the team, just not covering big huckers, not getting on the mark fast enough. So tightening that up would really change the dynamic here.
Now, Judy, is there anything you feel like either team could do to adjust to the windy conditions that we've seen cause a few turnovers for both sides?
Yeah, so I think just being aware there's what we've been saying, the one piece of the field that seems to pop up the disc so often, especially on swing throws. So just being really sure that those swing throws have a lot of space so that if the person has to run on or run in the air, that they're not throwing to a really tight window on the swing or the dump in that particular area of the field. I also think what we need to see in this second quarter is what's going to happen with the mental game for both teams. So there's been no breaks, right? And a lot of times the break energy, it's mental. The skill level is here, but which team is going to step it up to that, let's take over, let's get this turn.
Neither defense has really been able to assert themselves once they've gotten the disc. Zone look now from DC. That's pushed New York all the way to the sideline. The last time we saw this type of look, New York went over the top. Let's see if they try the same strategy. Taking that 5 show in the middle. Neither team's been able to get a break, and neither team's been able to score in this upwind end zone. And those two things are in contrast right now because it's holds upwind. So we'll see if the offense can't convert.
And just looking at the stat at the top, New York has had 9 break chances versus DC's 3. So they're in it, but it's what Keith was talking about before. In the meantime, though, we have a beautiful hold by Gridlock. Cartagena in the end zone. And it's a tie game at 5s.
And Douglas just showing off the smarts and the ability to execute a quick decision. Snaps this off to the break side before the mark can even really do anything about it. I mean, yeah, Cartagena's defenders looking back like, what just happened? And that's because Douglas decisive in the red zone.
And it feels good to score in that end zone. You know, nobody has done it yet. And so Gridlock's showing themselves, we can do this. We can do this upwind. We can get the ingredients right.
Yeah, I played basketball growing up, and for us, you talk about like taking the lid off the basket, and I think they just kind of broke the lid off that end zone. And we'll see if we start to get more scores up here. Although for New York, I think they're probably hoping that they're not going to see a score up here. They're going to get this first break. Now, we talked a little bit about New York's roster composition, people coming in and out. That's a part of the league and travel and scheduling. It can be tough even a compressed season to get everybody, all these busy players in the same place at the same time. But there are a couple players who unfortunately are just not able to compete today. Kelly Highland, Elizabeth Mosquera, those are key athletes that New York has had to play without, but they're pretty used to making it work with different puzzle pieces each time out.
And this first quarter for Gridlock compared to other first quarters has been head and shoulders cleaner, more decisive. So I think they can feel good about their performance even without those 2 huge name brand folks.
Nice job by the DC offense to get away from New York's junk look. Now Laurie in the middle. Goal. Find Faye, who squeaks open and then puts one towards the end zone. And again, that near sideline, which maybe is the I like to think of the field as low side and high side, and that feels like it's the low side. And every time we've seen somebody try and throw more than 10, 15 yards on this low side sideline, it has not worked out well.
And you know, if Jenny Faye can't do it, who can? Jenny Faye has some of the most precise throws in the league. Just known for a career of incredible play. But what was great, what Shadow was doing there, was they're doing short, smooth passes. So they worked up almost the whole field. And so now they know it for sure. They have to be really patient in that last 10 yards going in that direction. But Gridlock trying to make it a break.
Tons of pressure being put on these marks by Kara Sieber, who's taking off deep and forcing the marks to continue to try and shut that down. That helped open up some of this underspace. But Chang's throw floats. Bidding effort from Sieber. Now it's Faye with it just outside her own end zone. So now DC working straight up the opposite sideline. Faye in a power position. Nobody's available for her to take that shot. Deep throw, however, from Sevier, looking for Laurie again, and Laurie has been hitting the ground hard. Can't come up with that one, but matchup between her and Sieber are 2 players who like to bid and like to try and make plays.
Absolutely. And it was a good thought by Sevier, but again, that angle of the disc, it didn't land flat. It was really OI, hard to read, running straight ahead to the end zone. So Gridlock gets another chance at the break.
Laurie, an alum of Colorado College, she helped lead to the college championships. That team is now playing in Division III, and the D3 college championships are happening this weekend with Colorado College in attendance. So maybe Laurie will be checking the scores to see how her alma mater is performing.
Love it.
Deep throw from Wool, but Laurie taking off, but there's a deep defender already in the space.
Uncharacteristic of Shadow to throw it to no one. They're usually very precise about their throws. But again, it was that sideline of death.
It strikes again, a timeout now from New York. 7:52 remaining in the second as the teams take a break to discuss.
And Gridlock here with the home court advantage is going to be important to them. So they've been on the road all season. They had a quasi-home game, but it was actually in Massachusetts, kind of met Portland Rising halfway down the coast and had some fans. But to be here in the New York City area, have their family, have their friends here, have high schoolers that they coach here, I'm wondering if that's part of what we're seeing here with this tie score, with Gridlock making some errors, sure, but overall really bringing it in this first half of the game. What are you seeing, Keith?
Yeah, we're seeing both teams have a couple of like miscommunication errors that feel a little bit like it might have to do with the personnel groupings, with not getting to play with each other consistently, and playing against obviously really strong defenders. But some of those miscommunication errors are even happening on defense. So part of it will be teams cleaning it up, trying to execute well. I do think that there's sometimes a lack of a sense of urgency from New York. I do think when you see Yina Cartagena and Amy Jo and Nina Finley with the disc, you do see them have a sense of urgency. But otherwise, sometimes I think they're letting DC get away with mistakes by giving them a chance to recover. So looking deep for De Jesus. This one's hanging, so we may get a jump ball. And it's Finley who gets the best read on a disc that twists and turns. And it ends up with Emily Barrett for the score, as so many discs have in the past.
Yes, and some good heads up. We're hearing the crowd here in the booth starting to pump it up a little bit. Shadow walking back to their side, trying to figure out what do they need to do to bring the energy a little bit more here.
And this time, bringing in the O-line on the timeout pays off. New York gets the first break. This disc had twists and turns like an Agatha Christie novel. Then the easy dish to Barrett, who's hustling behind the play for the score.
Yes.
And those are two Ohio State alums, Nina Finley and Emily Barrett, connecting for that one.
Yes, and they are teammates on Exist. So as you were saying before, Keith, just a lot of chemistry. And then, of course, on DC Shadow, there's a lot of DC Scandal players. People have played together a long time, really have a lot of chemistry. So this is the right kind of matchup.
It's interesting being on the East Coast. These communities, like a lot of these players will come from varying colleges because there aren't like big central colleges to the cities in the area. So you end up with these scattered groupings. Well, if you're playing in other places like Raleigh or in Milwaukee, you're gonna have a lot of players who've played together for a number of years through their college programs. These players are building their experience together in club. And what a smooth, just frictionless score for DC, and they responded to that break and just blowing a kiss from Claire Trope. I mean, that was just an easy one for them.
Yes, DC Shadow reminding us all that, we got gas. We have the skills. We have Trope. Trope has been a little quiet thus far, but it might be that it's time for her to turn it up. Again, just hugging that sideline. They're just precision throws down the far sideline for the score from Trope.
A crowd silencing hold for DC. And Claire Trope's one of those players who you see her catch it, and there's just nobody within 10 yards, and you're like, how did that happen? How does a player of this regard get so open? But, it's a chicken and egg kind of conversation.
Her acceleration is incredible. And, everyone watches so much tape of her, right? So Gridlock is ready. How are we defending this person? But you're right, Keith, that to have you've been watched, there's a whole plan of action against you, and you can still get that open, just showing the athleticism and the intelligence of Trope as a player.
Finley centering it up to Douglas. And again, confusion on the mark. This time it's DC, however. But again, New York not able to take advantage of that sort of thing. I would love to see them be able to put some pressure on DC and make them pay for those mistakes. But they're building up some momentum now offensively. De Jesus with the discus or stoppage.
This is the match we love. Cartagena and Trope on the field together here. At one point, Cartagena cut deep. No one threw it to her a couple points ago when Trope was on her. I was very excited to see what would happen. But instead, what a grab from Amy Jo. Excellent defense from Shadow, but Jo able to pull it out. And that's the kind of player that Amy Jo is. Barrett shoving it into the end zone, knowing that Amy's got it. Amy is just her competitive spirit, her fire, her relentlessness. you know, comes in a small package, but is so fierce.
Oh, any defender will love to watch Amy Zhou play. I know she's been playing with the O-line here, but she is just such a tough player who plays with a lot of grit and has always been a fun player to watch since her college days at Rutgers. And going up a player cut from a similar cloth on that defensive point, that was Amanda Murphy, who is leading DC in blocks. She was hunting for another one right there, but Zhou able to be assertive and get in front of the play and make the play safely. And a strong grab from Amy Zhou.
And we are with Gridlock in the lead. It's 7-6 as the second quarter has brought quite a lot of action for us. Keith, what are you thinking that Shadow needs to do right now to pump it up?
Well, for them, I think it's almost not even about pumping it up too much. You mostly just want to stay steady. They haven't played against in a lot of situations, I think, where they've played from behind. So they got to stick to their game. You don't want to panic too much. You don't want to get away from what you do well just because you're suddenly trailing a strong team like Gridlock. Faye gets it back. Marked by Kowalski. Another pair of former teammates. Kowalski played with Scandal for a number of years. Not able to do much about stopping that one. Toe tapped right at the end zone by Sevier.
That was like one toe in. That was nuts. We're talking before about Jenny Faye's throwing prowess. That's where she wanted it. You know, that wasn't a miscue. That was, I'm going to throw it. My player's going to be able to toe this in. We're going to do it this way.
DC got the big win over Philadelphia, and they did it without Claire Tropeman. And one of the players that impressed me most stepping up in her stead was Blaise Sevier. Recent college graduate, so a young player, still coming up, but has gone from just being someone who I think was known for her quickness and her speed to being someone who's gained a lot of understanding of timing, has great hands, and we've even seen putting up some shots as well.
Absolutely. She is a tough competitor, and we saw in the game against Philadelphia, she had so many catches that she made look easy that were so difficult. And then when you're thinking about how to defend her, I mean, she could sprint deep at any moment, but also she's dangerous with the disc. So a really dynamic player stepping up in this game. And DC Shadow's D-line is coming out ready to play. I'm ready for Allison Maddox to do something saucy at this point. Great D player, handler D right now.
Deep shot going up from Douglas. Tracked down by Lavati, and an easy score by De Jesus. I mean, De Jesus and Emily Barrett are just so, they have noses for the end zone. They're just the kind of player who, like, they get near the end zone and somehow there they are.
It's magnetic. They're hungry for that score. A rip from Douglas, brought down by Janine Havlati. And Jenny, what a great angle coming in for De Jesus' score.
And rocking one of my favorite style statements, the mismatched black and white cleat. I have long been a fan of rocking that, and De Jesus doing it with a plum.
And De Jesus already has a strong game, 2 goals and 1 assist to show for it, and I think there's going to be plenty more where that came from.
Up to 11 goals, still holding strong on the Gridlock's lead in that category. It's been one of the top goal scorers in the season, this season. I think a player who's really broken out nationally along with Exist has certainly been a strong competitor on the mixed club scene and has started to assert herself as one of the best players in the mixed division, and certainly as well one of the best players in the Premier Ultimate.
Agreed.
Wasn't hype enough. We got players running 40-yard sprints across the field.
Lori trying to take off from the handler space, a classic play to generate some deep looks, but the zone slows him down, but only briefly. Jenny Faye trucking out of the backfield to gain some yardage, and just like that, DC's in the red zone. Faye a step away from another hold. This pick is called.
And they just broke open that zone right there. So DC said, go right ahead. Throw zone on us.
Sam Harris knocks it away. It took a couple tries for them to get it, but they did find it eventually. Faye, I think, just saw the defender's back, turned and said, I'll just throw it right past their head. And Harris was having none of it. Chang tracks that down. New York looking to push their advantage to 2 with a second break, but Faye gets the hand block. Normile gets the interception, and it is a fast break opportunity for DC, and fast it is. Into the hands of Lori. It's not fast, and she's eaten.
Shadow getting it back after moving it the whole way down the field on zone offense with smooth little short passes and then a miscue. And we're gonna see that D again. Sam Harris making sure with 2 taps. But Shadow takes it back. We're at a tie game again.
Yeah, break chances that have gone by the wayside are piling up for New York, but fortunately they lead in the category that matters. Breaks, they have one, DC's got none. DC's gonna have to work for more, but the DC offense has kind of vacillated between being just incredibly fluid, as if there was no defense, as if they're just running a drill out there, and other times just giving up multiple possessions per score.
It's interesting, we've sort of seen that on both teams, that they either had the dial way up or way down on defense. So sometimes see just incredible team defense, especially in the early part of the first quarter. And then other times it's like, wait, what are we playing again? So both teams really needed to bring the focus on defense for every single possession.
Douglas, a high backhanded. Murphy goes up for the block and just couldn't quite get the right line on it. Hangs in the air and mistimed, and now New York is advancing towards the end zone. Cartagena with Barrett just torching her defender to the front cone. And the scores keep coming for Barrett and De Jesus. Like they're taking turns out there.
Yes.
I scored last one. Why don't you go get this one?
It's you now. And Cartagena's just got that buttery float on that flick. I mean, that's a throw that a lesser handler is going to rip too fast. But Cartagena knows how to put just the perfect touch where there's enough pace that the defender doesn't have a chance, but Barrett doesn't need to lay out. And Gridlock is feeling good about that possession.
So Gridlock back out on defense, hoping to see if they can punch in another upwinder. The only team that has managed to do that for a break. See Coach Eileen Murray barking out the instructions. Eileen, we can all wish a happy birthday to Eileen Murray.
That's right. This would be the best birthday gift, this upset win. So I think the team is trying to do it for her. And you know, something about Gridlock that's impressive here is they have not trailed. So they had a really close game against Minnesota, lost only by 1 point. Minnesota was up on them 11-7. They clawed back, but Gridlock has started out this game without needing a clawback. In fact, they have the only break of the game. So this is now on Shadow to figure out how to say, no, we're the decisive top team in the East.
Deep shot going up from DC, but Abby Chang swarms it.
The crowd is loving that here in Mount Vernon Memorial Stadium.
And I talked briefly about the D3 College Championships coming up. Abby Chang won one of those at Oberlin. Player of the Year in D3 that year. She and Tulsa Douglas, both legends of Division III. So plenty of D3 action here in New York.
And Luisa Neves, who just passed the ball, is a coach of D3 Vassar College. Wonder if they're going.
A lot of coaches on these rosters, especially on this Gridlock side.
Yeah, and that's such a value of the PUL players, is there's so many coaches across the whole league investing in high school, especially high school girls, college women's, and just love to see the way that, you know, these athletes are at the top of the game. They're playing professionally. They're paid to do this, but they also think it's so important to work on the pipeline. Most of them are unpaid coaches, and that work is so important.
Malinowski saving that sharp inside throw. Kowalski looks for a reset, but miscommunication gets a turnover, and Normile's going to choose to slow things down. Normile, another Worlds Games participant, playing with Team USA.
DC is stacked.
Can't complete that one, however. So another chance for New York to break. Nevis and Kowalski play a little catch. Hockey Young, uncontested on that far sideline. They find a reset.
Defense is doing a good job shutting down the cutters here. And they get the turn.
Yeah, again, that forehand coming to this sideline, long throw has just gotten so many players today.
And it's hard to see on the screen because to us, the win is not apparent, but it's enough that it's really affecting the play on the near side.
Sevier resets to Faye. Faye with the outside in forehand, just saw that developing the whole way. And that's a Jenny Faye special into Kat Ritzman for the score to tie back up at 9 with 2 minutes exactly on the clock in this first half.
This has been such a good battle. I am just loving the plays we're seeing here. So showing us again, Faye seeking, found her in the end zone. Just like with Cartagena, just the touch on the disc that these players have is just, the defense was not so far off that if there'd been any float, she could have accelerated on, but Faye is leaving no room for error. And as a mom on the mic, I also want to point out that Jenny Faye is parent of 2 kids. Ultimate is just incredible in that people can play for 2 decades or more and play at this level. And I just admire so much Jenny Faye, Kath Radcliffe, also a mom on DC Shadow, just rocking it.
And Faye returning to the game and looks as fast as ever. Certainly is still one of the game's premier throwers. Just such touch.
She's wily too, She's like not playing it safe. She wants
Never
to thread the needle.
Sometimes I think she just likes the challenge. She sees a little window and she's like, I wonder if I can get that in there.
Reminds me of Alex Snyder, the longtime Fury handler, right? Where it's like, oh, you want to take that away? Oh, that's nice. I'll just put it over here. Robin Fennig of Minnesota Strike is also in that category of just the kind of above and beyond handlers. Cartagena in that category. So Premier Ultimate League, textbook handler skill that we feature here. And a turnover.
Cartagena looking for Zoe and almost a replay of the matchup between Zoe and Murphy. This time Murphy gets the better of it.
Now Shadow is going in the windy direction here, and so we'll find out, have they learned their lesson of having shorter passes going this direction? I think they still have not scored on that end zone.
I was just wondering if they were going to take a timeout and get the offense on the field with 50 seconds remaining in this first half, and it does look like they're at least going to do the timeout part. We'll see if they elect to put the offense in.
But this is a good move to recalibrate, going this direction with almost the full field to go. Getting your people just right for this situation, because this is a very important, if DC were to take this 10-9 and bring it to half with, the point up, that's really important. Conversely, keeping it at 9s is really keeping Gridlock in the game, or should Gridlock be able to get the turn? So similar to the first quarter, when the clock runs out on the second quarter, whoever has possession, that's the last possession of the game. So DC Shadow has 50 seconds to make sure they keep it in their hands, but they've got to go the length of the field in the most challenging way. Are you seeing substitutions here, Keith?
Absolutely. No surprise to see Claire Trope coming onto the field, but this is mostly offensive personnel coming out for DC. And it looks like some changes to bring on the defensive personnel from New York. So when you do take this timeout, the other team gets a sub too. So if you were hoping to take advantage of a matchup or a team being caught out in transition, you're giving that up, taking the timeout. And you can see New York's opted to come out with a specific look. Napa gets a scuba to break free. Now here's Lori. And Lori tries to force it through, and Renata Pepe gets a hand on it. Gets the first throw just up to the goal line, straddling that line now. Pressured, reset, caught by Sieber. New York wisely calms it down around the front cone, getting a little overcrowded there, so they free up some space. Andy Kaplan breaks to Sieber. Sieber looking to reset to Tangerlini, but completely shut off. Finds a release valve with Kaplan. And nice job by Tangerlini. A lot of switching defense communication from DC as they tried to figure out how to poach some of these spaces, and New York's able to find just enough room and get a critical score. I mean, that could have wrapped up with neither team going home with a goal, but instead it's New York who pumps one in front of the home crowd.
Yes, and you could see, I mean, there was some incredible defense by DC Shadow. There were no options from the stack. The handlers had to throw contested throw after contested throw, but kept it calm and were able to find Tangerlini in the end zone for a really important score for Gridlock. So the home crowd is loving that action. But I also got to hand it to DC. I mean, that was some great end zone defense. That would have, I mean, they were inviting an error from Gridlock, inviting them to get over eager and put it in the end zone when they were ready. That Cutter D was ready.
Yeah, impressive to see basically an offensive group still have that kind of wherewithal on defense, but not enough to take the disc away from New York, whose D-line showed that they could play some offense even in a situation where they were forced to think. And the first half, Judy, plenty of big plays between these two star-studded teams.
Absolutely. So we see Trope, as we would expect, in the end zone, but Gridlock also matching with some of their hucks. DeJesus has been huge. Rip, Glory, well read. Sevier. This was a great half. This was, neither team could really break away. They each had some errors. They each had some glorious highlight throws.
Big plays from New York and DC, but it's New York with the lead at halftime. They're up 10-9, trying to get the big upset.
What are they, spaceships from Mars? No, they're frisbees. Watch it soar. It flies way around like a bird. You can even run for a pass. You can play all kinds of games. Isn't it amazing? Frisbee Flying Saucer. Yours at toy, drug, and department stores.
Hi, my name is Emma Soilis. I'm number 8 for Philadelphia Surge, and I'm Cutter D-line.
I'm Jenny DeJesus. I'm on New York Gridlock. I'm a cutter.
So I'm trans, and we have like a trans Ultimate Player Discord group, and after the PDGA announcement that they were banning trans women from participating, we kind of got together and decided to write an open letter to USAU and basically say, hey, please don't do this. This is really harmful for lots of reasons, and you can read our open letter. It's out there on the internet. Julie and Eileen reached out to me and asked if we want to do some sort of fundraiser for our home opener, and I thought that was a fantastic idea. So yeah, we kind of hopped on board, contacted VC Ultimate, who very generously donated some wristbands and really helped us with sort of getting everything together. And then Jenny reached out and we sort of coordinated between the two teams, and yeah, it's been really cool. All of our donations are going to Galilei, which is a local nonprofit organization within Philadelphia that supports queer and trans people of color within Philadelphia. Yeah.
I feel like I'm just here to nod because I cannot like stress enough how much of this was born from Emma. Like truly and honestly born from Emma. Even on Thursday night, Gridlock had a workshop inspired by the work that Emma initiated with all of these orgs. And yeah, we've been talking back and forth. There's going to be a photo op, there's wristbands, there's some discs, and then yeah, supporting Galilei, who helps acknowledge intersectionality between identities, as Emma was saying. But yeah.
The reasons we chose Galilei was we really wanted an organization that didn't just support trans people, but had like more of an intersectional perspective and focus. Why not? That's a great question. Part of this was spurred on because of the PDGA decision, but also, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to the news, but there's like hundreds of anti-trans bills being passed in state legislatures across the country. And it's just a really intense time to be trans, to be a minority in America. And so we just felt the need to be very vocal in public and proud of like who we are as people.
I think the teams already have some connections just due to what some 2021 rosters look like. But I think that this gave us a reason to communicate in ways that we probably wouldn't have communicated without fundraising for this. Like, I probably wouldn't have talked to Emma leading up to this game. People wouldn't have reached out to other people. People wouldn't, yeah, I think that this is kind of what made this more of a community event, if anything.
I think Frisbee to me is like all about community. I got into it because of community, and like I'm still here because I love the community and like want to help develop that and really like bridge gaps, I guess. And it's just such a privilege to be here playing and representing Philadelphia. Yeah.
And New York. Is that where it cuts?
That's perfect.
Halftime here at Memorial Stadium. Gridlock with a 10-9 lead on Shadow. We're going to go to the sidelines to Judy Jarvis with Gridlock coach Eileen Murray.
Judy Jarvis down here at the field with the coach of Gridlock, Eileen Murray. Eileen, up and great. See what
defensive looks as possible to try to find out what was going to actually help us make the break. And so we ran through a couple of scenarios and then found the one that was going to work. And what was really great was the use of the timeouts. And actually their timeout helped us a lot because we were able to put on the exact defense we wanted in order to get that last score.
And what do you need to do in this second half to keep them on their heels and get this big win?
Can't rest on what worked in the first half and think about doing the same thing in the second half. So the whole goal is to keep them guessing, to keep them wondering what's going to happen next, because that's how we get the breaks. That's how we get the turns.
Right, and so we know that a lot of eyes are on Claire Trope, right? So coming into the game, didn't play in the last game with DC Shadow. What have you been doing to prepare to match up against Claire?
So we just talk to our athletes about trends of what we see people doing instead of individual matchups. And so we knew that we were going to have a couple of DC folks going deep and in like that kind of flex role, which is like Trope and Lori and Normile. And so just thinking about talking to our players about how you stay even and then how do you anticipate when they make those big moves.
So we understand it's your birthday tonight. And so obviously the greatest birthday gift would be winning this game. But how do you want to win this game?
I actually am not even really thinking about winning the game. The energy on the team right now is really good, and the goal for me in this game is to make sure that this energy stays, and so that no matter what happens at the end when we walk off the field, we feel successful.
Excellent. Coach, I know you got to go talk to your team. Thank you for the time. Best of luck with the game. All right, back up to you in the booth, Keith.
New York working on an upset that could shift the balance of power in the Premier Ultimate League, but they'll have to finish it off. DC on upset alert.
Get a picture together.
Getting ready for the second half to begin here in New York at Memorial Stadium. The Gridlock with a 1-goal lead on DC. They're the only team that's achieved a break thus far, and they will try and finish that off with ostensibly their season on the line. New York's trying to earn a spot in the postseason, but they have a lot of work to do, and a win to DC is basically a requirement for New York if they want to make it into the postseason.
Coach, it looks like we got second half starting lines going out onto the field.
So getting ready to start things off. New York will be pulling to start this second half, and I'm Keith Rayner, joined by Judy Jarvis here in the booth. And Judy, are you surprised at all by these results, given what we've seen from these two teams in their prior games this season?
I am surprised. I think, DC Shadow versus Philadelphia Surge. DC Shadow beat Philly decisively 15-10. Philly beat Gridlock, so you sort of think, okay, there's kind of this, domino effect that's going to happen. Similarly, Gridlock played Minnesota Strike. They lost 17-18 in a really close game, had a lot of early, just unfocusedness that we have not seen here at all. So the chemistry is strong. I'm a little out of breath because I was just recently running up from the field, but it's just such a great game. I'm very happy to be surprised, very happy to have there be some really different dynamics. This isn't just the other two games replicated. One thing I was thinking about is the PUL season has been characterized by a lot of rain. We do not have rain in this game. As we've talked about, wind has been a little bit of an impact on the near field, but it's also interesting what the different elements, the different team chemistry, you never know exactly what are the variables that come together, but we have a very exciting second half to come.
I think this is New York's first game that it hasn't rained, so I'm knocking on wood that we don't get any in the second half, but I do think this is the first time they've gotten to play with no precipitation. You mentioned the previous games. DC has an incredible plus 45 point differential coming into this game. I mean, that is a remarkable number to have dominated the league by. New York is sitting with a plus 15 in their 2-2 record. DC 4-0, but none of that matters right now. All that matters is who's going to score more points in this game.
And New York is hungry. So it is also that component of, DC, they know they have that, 45 plus. They know they've been kicking butt all season and that they're, on the road to the championship. And so we also may be seeing how that mental game is playing out, where Gridlock has nothing to lose, nothing to just do it and put it all out there. But as we say that, a beautiful score from DC Shadow.
Hey, you want to talk about putting it all out there? That's a put right to Lizzie Laurie again. Laurie has been all over this game, but credit to the deep throw. Got the pair of lefties connecting. Vol up ahead to Ritzman, and Ritzman, who I think grew her reputation as a receiver, showing she can take some shots too.
Absolutely. And Lizzie Laurie coming down with the disc. Abby Chang marking her, who is quite the defender. We've seen Abby already have some big plays in this game. So that separation, two defenders nearby, just incredible placement on that huck, and what a bring down. So that's how Shadow wants to play this whole half. Smooth, calm, collected, and on offense. And then the D, they got to get these breaks.
We have seen actually very little of Claire Trope being involved, mostly because she's been playing defense all day, potentially as the foil to Yina Cartagena. But what allows Shadow to do that is that Lizzie Laurie and Kat Ritzman and Blaise Sevier and Shirley Vol have been really strong for this O-line. I mean, if I were the DC coaching staff, I might want to see Claire Trope out there on offense just to make sure she's getting touches. Has such a massive impact on the game. But when you see your offense can do that so quickly, you think, hey, we can take this player and put them on defense. Judy, what do you think about when you're thinking about how to deploy your players, especially some of your top-level players?
Yeah, it's such an interesting point because you don't want to rely too heavily on your stars, your name brand, your Claire Tropes, your Cartagena, because the risk of that as a coach is that you're telling the rest of the team, well, you're the supporting cast, don't worry about it, they're going to be the hero. there's injury, there's schedule differences, there's off games, and so it's so important to, yes, set up those stars for the huge plays, getting them a lot of playing time. But I think what DC Shadow has shown throughout the season is how deep they are, and they don't need to play hero ball with Trope. So I think, a less experienced coaching staff might just have Trope in on every single point. But I think Shadow knows we have a lot to showcase, and we also want to develop a program. We don't want to just develop a single player doing everything.
Pick call will stop play as Murphy. I'm not sure that Murphy would have had a play on it. Maybe she's just looking to recover the distance here, but it looks like it is going to go back.
Joe Murphy matchup is one of the awesome ones of the night. Just
all right, saying six. When you're ready.
So observer letting know that the disc is coming in on 6. Oh my goodness!
What a snipe from Amanda Beans Murphy. Deep throw going up to Claire Trope. And Douglas able to swat it away, but Trope is going to say not without some illegal contact.
Woo! We got a spicy point on our hands right now, Keith. We had...
What's the call there then? Sorry, I'm trying to move through quickly. All right, there's no foul, that kind as well came through in between the hands. All right, direct disc, 10 seconds.
We're hearing the observer there, so when the observer is called in, they can give their assessment of the situation and make a call. But typically observers are doing lines and travels only actively, and they only come in when they're called. But we have our observers mic'd, which is great to hear how they explain and make decisions.
Douglas able to make the play, and tough spot to be in. I mean, she was trailing, but the throw hung up a little bit. But Trope usually able to come down with those plays well above her size, maybe more than any player I've ever seen. I mean, sometimes it feels like she's 6 feet tall, and there's just 5'6". But Douglas able to get the block, get the disc back from what could have been a big start to this third quarter for DC.
Okay.
We have another call on the field.
There was a pick called a decent number of throws previously that was unaffected. If both teams agree with the new continuation rule, you can agree to have it further as well. Sorry.
I just want to make sure the person who's
okay.
not, like,
If teams agree with the new continuation rule that it wasn't unaffected, you can agree to just play the disc here. Jenny, go ahead.
This is more than the usual discussion, so often in Ultimate we try to make the calls quick, especially with a timed game, but I think there were some complications of what happened with the continuation, distance, so we have players talking it out.
She's agreeing that the pick had no effect on the play either anyway, so it doesn't have the contest has no meaning essentially here as to where the disc is going to go.
And now we've devolved into laughter because no one can remember what they said and what mattered with this pick and who was where. So they will get the disc back to DeJesus.
Little 6-on-6 as the Ina Cartagena recovers into the play. Finley gets it back. Vertical stack from New York. Frees up room for DeJesus, who runs through hard. Another pick call stops play.
Wondering if we're seeing a little fatigue with all the pick calls. People running through instead of cleanly finding space.
Barrett able to get it straight up the sideline. And the sideline has been a trap for both teams going upwind. York breaks free, gets into the middle of the field with Douglas. Now again, you can see that disconnect between the cutter space and the handler space, I think you're seeing more and more teams start to operate this way so that their handlers can attack up the line a bit more aggressively. Teams can play a little bit more small ball. So you're seeing that deep stack.
Now they're in the danger spot, so we're going to find out if Gridlock has learned the lesson of the flicks on this side of the field are really challenging. The wind is lifting them up. Thus far, they've done a great job of centering the disc, getting it back. Not being tempted, except for the score. Cartagena to Emily Barrett. Able to get that score in there.
And that's got the crowd going here at Memorial Stadium. And DC a bit frustrated. Not sure if they thought maybe there was a call. I mean, Barrett looked uncovered. Let's go back to this. I mean, this is a pretty big call.
Yes, I see. It did look like there was definitely contact, but the question is whether it happened before or after.
Take one more look. You can decide for yourself at home. I mean, yeah, I don't know if I see any contact until after the play is decided between Douglas and Trope. It looks to me like Douglas hits the disc, and the disc hits Trope in the arm. And so I can see how Trope interpreted that as being hit by Douglas.
Right, right. Feeling some contact and getting knocked in the head on the way down is unpleasant. And that's what's so tricky about, you know, our rules, that there can be contact, but if it's after the disc has been hit, it is not a foul. And so that's what the observer called. I think that makes sense, but yeah, I like you, I thought that was Trope's.
And that's a tough block to get clean. I mean, it's I've seen a lot of players get that play, but foul in the process. And Douglas, who's such an experienced player, you know, has been playing for as long as some of the people watching this have been alive. Lori running out of options here. This Malinowski mark harassing her.
You can hear the crowd getting pumped up, pounding the pounding the bleachers. They want a Gridlock D right here. But Jenny Fay says, nope.
Well, it hangs just a little bit, and the jump is mistimed.
That was some excellent double defense by Gridlock.
Sid Harris with the help coming on the backside, and if she's not there, it's a turn, but it is a turn just a couple throws later. Instead, a short field for DC, a chance to punch it in, going into this infrequently penetrated end zone. And it's a Faye hammer that does the trick to tie it back up at 11.
Yes, DC Shadow gobbling up Gridlock's error there. So unfortunate after such a great D by Sid Harris that there's just a throwaway right on the goal line. And you know Jenny Fay can get it in with one pass, no problem. So DC is holding on. Gridlock certainly has the momentum. Let's see this score again. The first attempt, floated, and what a great angle that Sid Harris had coming in there. We're seeing the error again. And that sweet little hammer score. Malinowski throwing the hat.
Yeah, definitely some frustration on the part of the defense there, knowing that they gave one away too easy. And great pressure defense. I mean, if the initial defender who didn't get the block wasn't there for New York, then the offensive player wouldn't have to go up so aggressively and could have run that out. But the first player pressures the defender, pressures the cutter into going up early, and that mistimes the jump. Harris is able to clean up the block if Harris isn't there. I mean, you can see how defense is a team effort on plays like that. But the thing about being D-line, and not something I've ever done or want to do, is that you have to both play defense and offense. Part of being on O-line is hopefully you just score. If you do your job, you don't have to play any defense. But on defense, your job's not done until you play some offense, and that part's been a little bit tougher for both sides.
Absolutely. And the break chances numbers are very telling. You know, that each team has had chances. You know, this isn't the kind of the game where every O-line is just having, you know, a single possession point. There have been chances, but whether it's fatigue or whether it's the dangerous win zone.
A bit of a speculative throw into the deep space from Faye. No call.
10 seconds.
And interesting to see the matchups change. Trope has spent a lot of time on Cartagena, but they're drawing a different assignment. I think matched up with Emily Barrett in that case. Initiating underneath the throw for Peters. Big gainer for Neda Tremonte. DC hoping to recapture the lead with their first break of the game.
This would be a big break for DC.
Trope, big gainer. Cross field. Allie Wallace trying to hold position.
Oh!
Goes up big with one hand. Joe's not able to knock that one away, and DC surges back in front.
What a glorious flick huck. I just couldn't stop myself from making guttural noises as it went in the air because it was so smooth. So here we see again, Trope gets the disc, and the whole field holds their breath if they're not running onto the disc because it's perfectly placed. And that is the break that DC Shadow has been hungering for all game. It is now DC in the lead, 12-11 in this very close game. How are you feeling about this seesaw of a game right now, Keith?
I mean, you talked about the break chances. We know that New York has been piling them up, but not able to convert. And you know what decides games? Not how many break chances you get, how many breaks you score. DC's been a bit more efficient in those opportunities. And maybe that's part of having someone like Trope on the field. I mean, even though they're being outchanced by double and more, they still are not in front.
That is a surprising stat up there, 8 versus 19 break chances. I mean, it's both, the 19 break chances that Gridlock has had is both a testament to how their defense has been playing, but also, as you were saying before, that D-line needs to be able to lock it in. So they've done it once, and the question is, can they do it again? Right now on offense, hoping for an easy hold.
New York's really focused this game through their handlers. Their offense is very much driven by what the handlers can find. And I wonder if they're not getting a chance to open up the field. And even this deep shot from Douglas to Cartagena is handler to handler. But if you can draw it up to open up the field, that works.
Yes, and it's also, DC Shadow has been playing excellent defense on the cutters, but you're absolutely correct. Look at this rip from Tulsa to Cartagena, and that's what I love about both Cartagena and Douglas. They will both go deep. These are not handlers who just huddle around the disc and they're only going to get it in the backfield. They are going to stretch their defense and make them work and not get too comfortable.
Cartagena has, of course, been a focal point, as she has on nearly every team that she's played on. Just such a player of immense talent. And we've talked about the World Games players from the U.S. side. Cartagena has not only been as multi-time World Games player for Team Columbia, but has represented her nation on the international stage countless times.
And it's absolutely incredible so that she's been involved in 5 of the scores here, and to be able to have built all of that chemistry in just this one short season is just another testament to her skill, the depth of play, the depth of knowledge, and that she's able to integrate. There's a lot of Gridlock returners who've played together, like you were talking about before, the cluster of teams. Cartagena is kind of coming in fresh and able to be this important on the roster.
Cartagena has never played in the PUL and not won the title, and I don't think she wants this to be the first year that's the case. 2-time champion with Medellin Revo Pro. Now trying to get it done for the Gridlock. Interception by Sam Harris. Swing it out to Kowalski. And off to the races now for New York. Although things slow down as DC's defense collects itself. Not sure if that was deflected out of the hands of Harris, but Kowalski secures it.
This is just as I was about to say, this is an important break chance for Gridlock. There's just an unfortunate drop, giving Shadow possession back.
But par for the course of what we've seen today, the defense has just not been able to be efficient. They're still, however, right in this game because they generated such a volume of chances. Ritzman up line. Mile gets it over to Fay.
Shadow loves that sideline.
And they love that inside high release break. They've gone to that a lot. Have a couple lefties on the line. You don't need to use that, but the righties have been effective. Mile can't keep that one in bounds. Not the proper edge on that throw, so it pushes away from the receiver. And Vol not able to save it.
Now the D-line has possession. They got to work at the whole field.
Bryson in their own end zone. Kowalski. A lot of poaches from DC right now.
And it may be that New York thinks about taking a timeout here, changing the personnel. When they have this whole field to go, they often look to that. But as for now, they're just working it. Abby Chang, who got that big D in the end zone before, now up to Sam Harris.
Here's Nevis. Resets, and while I think that taking a timeout might be smart to get your O-line on, I do like keeping this DC offense out there. See if you can run them down a little bit. Don't let them put Claire Trope and some of these great defenders back on the field either.
Right, as soon as you call the timeout, the other team gets the same, privileges to change the field up. And so that's probably on the coach's mind too.
And that throw up ahead to Harris. Harris can't get it and comes down and takes an injury. Hopefully they're okay.
This gives a moment for everybody to catch their breath, see some heaving shoulders here. This has been a long point. We're in the third quarter, and it is a tie game. So the stakes are high for both teams.
It's up this step to where. Right. We're live!
And seeing again the turn.
I'm going to tell you some information that's going to shock you, G. Jarvis. They subbed in Claire Trope with the injury.
What? You finally got your dream, though, the Trope playing on the O-line, so.
I mean, we've seen it like 3 times this game or something, and a lot of those points have ended very fast. And here is the deep throw to Trope, but just a jump ball, and there is Claire Trope doing what Claire Trope does. I said earlier, sometimes you look around and you're like, where is her defender? But other times, she just plays with that massive size. It's like she's huge out there because she has such great timing and such secure hands on these high throws.
Her read is so good. So understanding the angle of the disc, actually catches it on the down jump, but knows that she needs to get in the air early because she has Nikki Hare and Abby Chang trying to make a Trope sandwich. Still able to come down with the disc. That's why Trope's resume, we have it here, Team USA for so many years, because she's the player who's going to get it done. So the sloppy throw to the end zone doesn't matter. Going to get it.
I've heard of tripe sandwich, but not Trope, I don't think. But Trope, I mean, look, I'm not saying that she doesn't play great defense, but we've seen what she could do out here for the offense. She had the cross-field throw for the score. We've seen her taking off deep for scores. We're seeing her win jump balls. I mean, by all rights, that probably should be a turnover. But when you're throwing the Claire Trope, you don't have to worry so much about it. And DC gets a big score to go up 13-12. And you'll wonder if New York's thinking maybe we should have taken that timeout.
Yes. So they're on O, and they're looking for a smooth possession here. We've seen so many great scores from this O-line.
Absolute rip on that pull.
Seeing some extra handler pressure here. The defenders playing off a little bit because they know how much Gridlock likes to dominate the handlers.
Last possession for New York's offense, we saw Cartagena take off deep. And that's an important move because it keeps the reset handlers from being able to just front. There's a deep throw looking for Amy Zhou. And incomplete, just beyond what she can catch up to. So a break chance for DC.
The handlers looked a little stressed there. They usually look very calm and collected. Nina Finley, Nina Cartagena. But the DC pressure was making them make some choices that they might not have made.
It's a big part of what got them past the Surge in that key East Division matchup. But the offense is going to have to be a little better for DC, as they wasted a chance to hold on the last possession of this third quarter. Turnover with about 3 seconds left on the clock, so it'll be New York who gets the last chance to score in this one. Douglas gets it with Peters on the mark. De Jesus generates a lot of separation, tries to run that one in, but doesn't have enough float. To Cartagena. De Jesus so effective in the end zone because she's such a decisive cutter. And there, instead, is the decoy, and another score for Emily Barrett. I mean, when you've got 2 goal scorers like this, what is the defense to do?
It is tricky because, you know, you're looking who can help Dion De Jesus, but look long enough, and Barrett's going to find that space. Her defender was face guarding her, and Cartagena is very happy to make that work. We're going to see the turn again here. Great D by Havladi, and a nice floaty score, Cartagena to Barrett.
I mean, it's hard to blame the defender in that situation. That's a remarkably impressive throw from Cartagena, just throwing it out to space with great touch despite the mark being on her and the angle that she had to hit it and the wind conditions, but still just tucks it right in and ties this one. Can New York pull off the upset in front of their home crowd, all even as we go to the fourth between New York and DC?
What are they, spaceships from Mars? No, they're frisbees. Watch it soar. It flies way around like a bird. You can even run for a pass. You can play all kinds of games. Isn't it amazing? Frisbee Flying Saucer. Yours at toy, drug, and department stores.
This broadcast is brought to you by Spin Ultimate, the official live stream sponsor of the Premier Ultimate League. VC Ultimate, the official uniform sponsor of the Premier Ultimate League. VC has partnered with the PUL and New York Gridlock since 2019, 4 years in running. Shop the full PUL collection at vcultimate.com/collections/premier-ultimate-league and rep your favorite PUL team.
Folks, your New York Gridlock are coming out.
So all even or all odd, if you will, 13-13. That's my lucky number. We'll see which team's lucky number it is.
I love this game. This is the exact way we want to start a fourth quarter. The fans watching at home, the fans watching in the stand. Keith, you and I in the booth. This is the type of ultimate that the Premier Ultimate League brings us. Just 2 incredible teams. New York Gridlock really stepping up in this game, as we talked about before. Nothing to lose, a surprising, excellent, smooth performance. DC put a lot on the table as well, but they've been locked in battle, trading points. I think they each have 1 break. So trading breaks, so it's anybody's game right now.
And the volume is turned up here at Memorial Stadium. I don't know if that's because this game's so close or because they're giving out some free gear, but New York is excited to have a fired up crowd behind them for the first time all season. And unlike DC, they've been in these kind of really tight games. DC's pretty much been kicking butt and taking names all year. Maybe that clutch gene can be a factor in front of this home crowd.
I think you're right, and I think Gridlock has to play for everything. If they want a chance at being the wild card in the PUL championship, that's what they need to do. And we see here the clean holds. New York has had 1 more than DC, but we've seen both teams bringing just some beautiful, smooth, single possession. Oh, will this be one for Gridlock?
Maddox nearly gets a turn out of the reset between Finley and Cartagena with some great pressure defense, and that's after a switch. Really, Maddox, I think maybe thinking Trope might wanted to have switched back. That was their initial switch pairing. They switched away, and maybe that miscommunication led to the fumble on defense.
Oh my, I thought that was a pick. Barrett was so unguarded, I just assumed. But nope, that is a score. Cartagena to Barrett. Gridlock is feeling it.
This brings up kind of an interesting situation, and maybe this is something that's more of a modern problem as teams have added this roll coverage to their defensive package and stopping that upline with the switch. Is at what point have you switched, and thus you can no longer call a pick on the handler because you are not defending that person? You've now changed which person you're guarding. Like, what is the what room do you have to work in that gray space? If I'm guarding both of these, I'm half guarding both of these people.
Right, and the margin of error on Barrett is very slim. So we just saw there she's had 4 goals and 1 assist. So if you are not getting the communication just right, if you're not getting the role just right, she's going to exploit that. Barrett was a former high-level basketball player in high school. You know, she knows how to use space. She knows how to go to, and like we were talking about, she and DeJesus especially are so hungry in the end zone. They will find the disc any way they can.
I'm going to use the term role player and not in a diminishing way for Emily Barrett because her role is to score goals, and she does that a lot. It's a pretty good role to have.
I think so. Oh, and a big D, Nevis, that line that DC Shadow likes to move the disc on so well. Nevis got in there, and Gridlock has a chance for a huge break.
Nevis rocketing one towards that attacking end zone, but maybe a travel call that's going to send this one back.
It was too good to be true.
The crowd doesn't like it.
A lot of Nevis's teammates from Exist in the crowd, and had a great D, but then just a little too much acceleration, looking for that power position hook.
Honestly, I mean, we were talking about how Jenny Faye responds to competition. I think she probably likes to get people a little bit.
Are we no stall here then? Because it was.
Oh yeah, she's smiling.
Yep. All good. All good.
Bring it, says Faye.
So back in with Nevis, taking away a great opportunity. Could that be a turning point? York's got the 1-goal lead, and what a block.
That was beautiful.
Was that Blaze Sevier
I think
blazing
it was.
across our screens? Unbelievable. Normile now with it. Tight pressure on defense from Harris, but finds Lori.
Shadow is not done yet.
Malinowski doing what she's done for so many years, just supplying an absolutely massive mark to Lori. Faye thinks of it. Looks like she's thinking about the crossfield throw. Nice job by the defense to prevent anything from going up, and Ritzman gets lots of room. DC trying to get organized, but their handlers are doing a nice job keeping the disc alive as they figure out exactly how they want to attack. And Faye gets up the line, but Ritzman's throw leaves her clapping her hands in frustration. She knows she let one get away with that forehand just a little too saucy.
Oh my. This is one of those gritty points. We saw a bunch of these in the first quarter with both teams playing strong defense, but then just a little off on some execution.
Nice save by Kowalski. That throw I don't think was intended for her, but the heads-up play to catch it out of the stack. And this is, again, another situation which you might think New York's thinking about a timeout, but you also see that your opponent is tired, so you kind of ask yourself, which one of us has more legs right now? Deep throw, goes up and connects with Joe just outside the end zone. She doesn't even get up as she flips it in.
Are you kidding me? I love a good kneeling assist. That's what the Gridlock crowd wanted. That's what the Gridlock team wanted. After a long point, as you were saying, Keith, they could have gone in a few directions. They could have called the timeout and tried to settle it down. But instead, the team just tried to grind it and with a big huck, I'm not sure who hucked it to Joe. Let's see that sequence again where the block.
What a play from Sevier. But the miss on the throw to Faye sets up this awesome play by Amy Zhou. You can see him working it and then get the deep throw up to Zhou. Brings that one in, slides. Just says, you know what, I'm down here, no bother, no need to get up. I got this.
No, insult to injury. She makes the catch and then not even on 2 feet makes the assist. That's how confident she is about, we are going to score this right now. And it's back to that competitive fire we were talking about before about Amy Zhou. Just, you can count on her to be pumping people up, and she's a show not tell kind of person. You know, she's going to show you this is what we need to do right now. So Gridlock is up by 2 points. An uncharacteristic drop by Trope.
And Trope trying to pull in that trailing edge as that throw was running away from her. And now a chance for New York to pour it on. And they connect to the delight of the crowd. Kara Sieber catches that one, and the Gridlock, with 8 minutes and 9 seconds remaining, have a 3-goal advantage on the #1 team in the Premier Ultimate League, DC Shadow.
We're gonna see this again. Oh, Trope, there was some pace on it, just hard to get her hand on. Tagliani, beautiful put to Sieber. And Gridlock is trying to hand DC Shadow their first loss. You can see they're fired up. Barrett getting it, feeling it. And what we heard Coach Eileen Murray talking about at the half is maintaining the energy, that the score matters less as how her team is feeling. And how would you say her team is feeling right now, Keith?
I think they're feeling pretty fired up at this point. You know, they recognize that they're making some big plays when it matters, and their conversion rate's going up. Part of what I think is helping them do that is that they are fast breaking out of these transitions. They're attacking and playing aggressive. They're on the front foot right now, and they might as well try and stay there. You don't want to let DC collect themselves and get back into this game. But this is unfamiliar territory for DC, who I'm sure is glad to get this test in the regular season, but you know, there's nobody who's safe except for Minnesota. They secured a playoff position.
Yeah, they're on their back heel in a way that they haven't been all season. They've just been such an incredible team, bringing the fire all season.
And a blown coverage from New York, and sad to see it if you're a Gridlock fan. I mean, right now they have so much momentum, and I was just thinking, wow, they're not making any of the same kind of mental mistakes they were making in the first half, and then they let one crop up and give DC an easy score.
And that's what's tricky. If you take your foot off the pedal against DC, they're gonna go. So we see here a beautiful puck down the field. Sevigny assisting the goal.
Yeah, 2 UVA alums, Sevier connecting with Tremonte for that score. Tremonte's become such a staple of DC Women's Division Ultimate. It's just a longtime player, a grinder, the kind of player everybody wants on their line. Like doesn't do a lot of flashy things, but just always in the right spot and always works her tail off.
The Gridlock is up by 2 points, but that's not a lot for 7 minutes and 51 seconds to play. DC can really accelerate back into this game at any time, seeing as how many incredible possessions and D plays that they've had. So this game is far from over, and that's the key for Gridlock right now, is making sure they don't get too comfortable, too cocky.
And we'll see. I mean, this matchup in the backfield has really defined this game in a lot of ways to me for DC. Is how effectively can they keep these handlers from gaining yards? How can they force them into secondary looks? But that group of Cartagena, Finley, Douglas, with help from De Jesus and Zhou, has just been able to maintain possession in New York's best offensive moments.
Yeah, the chemistry on this O-line tonight has been fantastic.
Curling cut from Douglas frees her up, and then to the break side. Zoe uncovered back there for a nice hold for Gridlock. They maintain their edge up 17-14.
I just love to see a nice flick huck on display. We've just seen so many beautiful ones tonight. Some flat ones, some bladey ones, some curvy ones. Just we're adding in some textbook flick hucks to the collection tonight. Look at this.
And you want to talk about textbook, Judy. I mean, that's exactly how you draw it up, right? Is you get up the line, you look in the continue to that side, and then you go against the grain. Maybe your mark's over pursued, the defense is over pursued because of the action coming towards that open side. And Douglas just knows, hey, if I put it out to space over there, I'm probably going to have somebody there. Amy Zoe is on the spot. So how will New York play with this advantage, and how will DC operate playing from a deficit?
We are definitely in new territory tonight.
Faye walks to pick it up. And hand blocked. Stasi Tangerlini.
Stasi.
Stops that one early. And that's about the shortest possession we've seen from DC. Kowalski into traffic and knocked away from Normile. Make sure that nobody can make a back-end play with the dive.
And that's where you have to see the mental game for New York. Just not get overexcited about, I mean, a hand block on Jenny Faye. Okay, yes, let's freak out about it. But also, cannot turn it over in the red zone. Can't be tempted by throwing to marked folks in a throw like that. So we got to see if Gridlock is going to play hot. You know, what does that mean when they get that possession? Does it mean that they're going to be hot and careless, or can they be hot but cool-headed? If that makes any sense.
Sevier gets it up the line. But they have been stuck on this sideline for the entirety of this point. Now Normile gets in a power position and sends it, but it's a bit of a hanger. Some contact in the pile, but there's no foul. Kowalski's going to come up with the block. And again, we see New York's trying to push the pace when they get these turnovers, not let DC set, try and keep the action going their way, and now they've got a lot of room. Sieber behind the defense.
What a great quarter Tagliarini's having.
Back to Kowalski, and there's a timeout. 5:31 remaining. So a timeout now is New York sensing a chance to really potentially put this game away. You can go up 4 with 5 minutes left. I mean, that may be the dagger.
Absolutely. This is do or die time for DC Shadow. They need to set up a defense here that's going to prevent Gridlock's flow.
The Discraft Ultrastar is the official disc of the Premier Ultimate League. Discraft, the world leader in disc sports. This broadcast is brought to you by Spin Ultimate, the official live stream sponsor of the Premier Ultimate League. Now, Judy, we talked in the beginning of this broadcast about what's at stake for New York. Winning this game is basically a prerequisite for making the postseason as a wild card team. But every point matters because it's a committee that's going to decide which team gets in. So you want to assert yourself. I mean, if they can win this game, winning this game is great. Winning it by 5 or 6 actually starts to bring to life that opportunity to get the wild card spot.
Absolutely, and that's why they cannot get too greedy. You know, like, oh, we're so close, let's just shove it in. They need to have that discipline even when they're in this advantageous position.
Finley brings it in. About 16 yards outside. De Jesus comes under. I think a foul call is Mark approached.
Do you think this is a foul contest then? Or a violation?
I tried to bring the disc like this. I don't know. I just thought
All right, we're treating that as that, stalling free unless you want to come to me for something different.
We love
Stalling
hearing
free.
the field talk, how players who are exhausted with adrenaline pumping describe things. Beautiful.
You got to get a good reenactment in there. You know? Barrett with the save on the high throw. Cartagena directing traffic. And there's De Jesus, but a pick call. It's going to keep this one, I think, from counting as a score yet.
Now we're going to pull that back.
The disc is going to be going back. She was a little too open for that. Probably not to be a pick, but De Jesus gets pretty open.
I couldn't hear. I have a good idea of like how quickly the throw came off. I don't think you would have said more than one. So,
So they figure out the stall count. They are eating into the clock here. The length of this possession. So all the more important for DC to deny this score.
Here we have a injury here. Douglas went down on a knee, taking it slow. Glad to see she is walking. Let's go back and look at, just looks like a bad footing there. Hopefully not a knee.
Yeah, trying to fight through the defender there and some contact between the legs. But Douglas walking off under her own power. Just talk with their medical staff. Subbed out for Luisa Neves.
Yeah, so, yeah. All right, thing 4. I think what's that? When you're ready.
And this possession just taking on more and more weight as the time goes on. And De Jesus with the stumbling layout for the save.
We're incredulous here in the booth. How does she do it? She's on the ground. She's falling down, finding a way to get that disc magnetically to her hand. De Jesus so clutch for Gridlock. Just incredible play. Let's see it again. Oh my goodness. Not even a bobble. She just gets it in her hand like flypaper.
Yeah, even with the approaching help defense from Murphy, who's been looking to help a lot today, they gotta watch out for that. But De Jesus with the save. I mean, what a critical play. We talked about the clutch gene. New York might just have it. They've had the reps in this situation. 3 goals for De Jesus, and I think she and Barrett have combined for about half of New York's scores in this game.
And look at this score here. So Gridlock has started to pull away with a 4-point lead, definitely the largest in the game. And as you were saying before, point diff is huge here. So their D-line coming out right now has to be focused on getting that break chance and completing the break. So we've seen again and again Gridlock gets many more break chances than DC, but doesn't convert at as high a rate as DC. Or at least didn't in the first half. Now they're probably converting a little bit better.
Sevier lines one up, but maybe undecided about exactly how far she was planning on throwing that as she pulled it back. And again, you see that quick transition in offense for New York. Kowalski up ahead. Pressure from defense, but Tangolini's going to take the opportunity to take a shot, and as a open Malinowski, but could she keep it in bounds?
It was a good idea for the rip, but it was out of bounds. We're finding out there might have been a call.
It looks like there's a call on the throw.
So we're hearing the conversation. It's an uncontested foul, which means the disc is back in Tangolini's hands.
The disc is going to come back to the Gridlock.
Maybe she'll feel like ripping it again to Malinowski.
Chance to throw it.
Malinowski definitely had steps. Just was out of bounds there.
Odd situation to me because Tangolini took the deep shot after the contact occurred. Strange to me. But she's got possession, and New York's got a chance to continue to add to a lead that may be insurmountable if they could score here. High one for Malinowski, can't quite catch up to it. But time is a big factor for DC. They do not have any to waste as we approach through the 3-minute mark.
And DC's got to go the whole field if they're going to make this goal.
Up line.
Gridlock's a little bit junky here, so they want DC to throw a lot of passes. They're trying to keep them trapped on that sideline there.
And DC's struggled getting off the sideline a bit in the second half. Credit to the New York defense. And Laurie tries to fight one across, and it's saved by Trope.
Hello, Trope-tacular.
And now DC's looking to take advantage. And a beautiful throw to the end zone. Another score for Sevier. And DC gets what they need, but they're going to need more than that.
That was a big save by Trope. That looked like, you know, off screen, we didn't know anybody was coming. It just looked like it was going to be an easy turnover for New York. But Trope accelerating, keeping the possession for DC. Let's see that score. Oh, here's the catch by Trope. And a beautiful lofting huck to Sevier, whose name we have said quite a lot tonight.
Yeah, great throw from Jess Sourbeer, who's been having a great season for DC, but she's been a bit quiet in this one, but there with Faye taking a break on that offensive point, Sourbeer coming over and helps steward the score. Now, unlike in the other quarters in this PUL matchup, this quarter will not have the lengthy possession that follows the 0 mark. It's going to be that final throw with the disc in the air when we get to 0. So that's even less time for DC to try and get a comeback. They're going to need to get the disc, get a quick score, and get back on the field again to try and repeat that process.
Right. It'll be interesting to see here if Gridlock is going to do a pull play, try to get in as fast as possible, or if they're going to try to wind down the clock here.
And that high throw from Cartagena is knocked away by Buke, but a foul call from Barrett.
Let's see that again. Cartagena's disc flies a little bit high. It looks like it was a clean D with contact afterwards, but the players are going to discuss. They went to the observer. We're waiting for the observers to make a ruling.
Observer ruling, not a foul.
All right, they saw what we saw, which was clean disc touch, and then the feet got tangled. That is a great D by Shadow, not allowing Gridlock.
Our observers, Chris Vanny and Moy Lee, coming up with the call there. But can Shadow come up with a goal? They do, and that's exactly what the DC doctor ordered. Claire Trope with the score, and they did it in under 30 seconds.
Great read on the disc. So both defenders were not close, anywhere close. We're going to see that block and score again.
I mean, I can't stress enough. This is the thing you least want to happen if you're New York. An extremely fast turnover, short field, and you give up the goal in one throw.
And look at that acceleration as Trope sees the path of the disc is going wider. Trope is fired up.
Still makes the trailing edge catch. I know that last one got away from her, but didn't intimidate her from trying to again. So now 2 minutes. 2 minutes and 2 goals feels a lot more achievable.
And DC has 2 timeouts. So yes, the score, stranger things have happened than a comeback victory with this score right here, especially with how high caliber, if I could say that, a team DC Shadow is.
And in this final 2 minutes, the clock is going to stop basically almost any time that they're not in live play. So that will extend a little bit of real time for DC, but step one is going to be they have to get the disc. That's the nature of the game at Ultimate, is you got to take possession away.
They have to be ferocious right now on defense. They cannot wait for Gridlock to move the disc or make an error. They have to go get the D if they want a chance on this.
And Allie Wallace, who's one of their dogged handler defenders, has now gotten this Cartagena matchup. Douglas breaks free. A lot of contact as Wallace tries to clear through and bumps into Douglas. I think Wallace calling a pick as well, so.
Excitement.
2-goal lead for New York, trying to get an upset that could breathe life into their playoff hopes. They only have fewer than 90 seconds to do that. Barrett to Joe. and flips one in for Cartagena, and a big score for New York to try and hold off DC. They go up 19-16 with just 75 seconds remaining. And for New York, like we said, every goal matters. Every bit of margin that they can add to this game is additional points for them to score with the voters, with the committee that's going to decide their playoff fate.
Absolutely. And just also loving to see the patience under pressure. So that was kind of our question is, okay, Gridlock's starting to take the lead. You know, they're 2 points ahead earlier. Are they going to get too overconfident? But that possession showed that they were ready to do that patient work in the red zone and make it right, make it clean, make it easy.
Now, at this point, how desperate do you feel like you are, Judy, to get a score? I mean, are you basically hucking it no matter what at this point? I mean, you really are tight on time.
For DC?
Yeah.
For DC, I mean, for them, they're not as worried about point diff. You know, that's not going to matter as much for their championship road. But I think it's about the pride, you know, to come down, to be, you know, be down 3 points right here. I don't think they like that one bit. So I think they're looking to get another point on the board for sure.
Well, the other thing it is a great chance to practice. What do you do when you're in this situation? I mean, they could be in this situation at playoff weekend one day, and you want to be prepared, know how you're going to play when there's 75 seconds left and you need points in a hurry.
Yes, and this is what's so different than in the club division, which, you know, pretty much all these players also play club, where we don't have the time rules. And so this is a different set of skills. This is a different set of mental toughness that, you know, basketball players are very familiar with and other sports are very familiar with. But this fourth quarter, this is the time, this is just going to be the end, is a different set of skills.
On a foot block, saved, so it won't go on the stat sheet for Kara Sieber, but it'll be in the memory banks. But I am a bit stunned by how complacent we're seeing DC play on offense right now. I mean, there's been nary a deep cut yet. They have not looked like they have any sense of we need to get in the end zone if we want to have a chance of winning this game. Now down to the final 10 seconds. They are going to score, but it is all but over. New York is in position to take this win. And DC came out and kind of waved the white flag on that point.
That was very interesting to see. They're just, not a sense of urgency, and maybe that was the plan. You know, maybe the coaches were saying, let's move it down calmly. Let's make sure that we can, you know, have some flow. And like we were talking about, what are the ingredients, what are the tools that they're going to most need for the championships?
Take a look at our Discraft play of the game, and it's Jenny DeJesus crawling into that one, but gets off her feet, and then gets off her feet again for the score.
That is just a gritty catch. You could see so many players giving up. Oh, I missed it, it's too low, but she kept her eyes locked on the disc the entire time and figured out how to stretch her fingers out for it. Well-deserved play of the game.
And that was a huge score too. So not only was it an impressive play in the moment, but in the context of this game, such a high pressure moment. I mean, if they don't score there, this game could be a totally different game. This comeback could have been at a very different tenor. But instead, New York gets to watch the final grains of sand drip through the hourglass on a Gridlock win. New York defends the home turf, hands DC their first loss, and the East Division, it's a brand new day out here in the East in the Premier Ultimate League.
You said it, Keith. What a game. Gridlock coming out 19-17, and that's not even the greatest point differential they had. They played a decisive game all throughout. We had a really close game, especially a close battle in the first half. And to see Gridlock really accelerate, I mean, this is different for the team. This has been a comeback team. They've been grinding, that Universe loss against Minnesota. They were behind, they were trailing, they were coming back. This was a very different narrative where they were in the game from the start and able to pull away towards the end. DC, incredible plays, incredible player. It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. And it's just exciting to have this going on in the East. Keith, what's standing out to you?
I mean, part of it is we talked a lot about the depth of these teams. I mean, obviously they've got stars, but you think about all the players that New York was playing without. Players who were here on the sideline. You know, no Mosqueda, no Highland, no Zoo. I mean, those are big time players, and they're still able to gut out a win against a Shadow team that had their Trope in the lineup and hand DC their first loss, leaving Minnesota as the only remaining undefeated team in the Premier Ultimate League, and really potentially shaking up the East as Gridlock now even in the win column with the Surge.
So the big question is Gridlock versus Surge. I mean, in the head-to-head matchup, Surge did beat Gridlock, so it might be pretty tough for the committee to say Gridlock gets the wild card here. But then again, Shadow beat Surge, so we have one of these kind of snake eating its tail set of decisions that this committee has to make. It's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be looking at the remaining schedules for these teams. DC still has Raleigh to play. They could definitely take another loss. It is in DC, but we know Raleigh's one of the strongest programs in the PUL. And Gridlock still with matchups, a matchup against the Torch, and the Surge also play the Torch, and they play Rising, I believe. So there are still results outstanding. Suddenly the East is wide open thanks to New York's fantastic home field performance.
Now we're going to highlights to see some of what it means that Gridlock really has a chance now. So it's just changed the dynamic of the PUL, the East Division, to have Gridlock pull out this win. We're seeing some of the big plays of the game.
Yeah, DC might have been able to kind of coast through the back end of the season, but New York has put them on notice and put the East on notice. I mean, I know some people, there's nobody who's more wrong than a guy with a podcast, but some people like me picked this New York team to be the best team in the league this year, and that was the team that we saw glimpses of tonight as they took down this DC squad. 19-17, your final score here from Memorial Stadium. For Judy Jarvis, I'm Keith Rayner, wrapping up a fantastic upset here in New York. Gridlock, 19-17 win to shake up the East.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. Have a great night.